Hey riders, Avi here with STT Electrics for another electric bike review. Today, we're going to take a look at the Element Eventure 29, a hardtail mountain electric bike. Element is a Canadian brand with offices in Toronto and Calgary. They make several styles of electric bike, including mountain bikes, commuters, hybrid road bikes, and good old-fashioned analog bikes as well. Now, I bought this bike a couple of years ago on a killer deal for 2,000 bucks Canadian. Since then, however, they have listed it as $29.99 on sale, the regular price tag of $3,500, so it's not on the cheaper side. Another thing to note is I recently went on Element's website and noticed that it's kind of incomplete with some generic reviews, boilerplates, spelling errors, and their social media is not active, even though they have the little Facebook logo and Twitter logo on their website. So I have my skepticisms. Despite that, you can still buy it through their website online, so I'm not really sure what's going on there. But let's move on to the bike itself. Like I said, this electric bike is built around a hardtail mountain bike frame. It only comes in the red you see here, so if red's not your color, then I guess this might not be the bike for you. As with some of my other bikes, I've added a bit of personality to it, so please note that the red grips, the red pedals, the lightweight fenders, and even the kickstand are all aftermarket attachments. It comes standard with some more basic black grips, some decent black Weller pedals. There's nothing wrong with any of that stuff. I just like the pop of color better. Starting at the front of the bike, you're going to be rolling around on some Kenda 29-inch tires. Take note, they're not e-bike rated. That doesn't necessarily mean they are a bad tire for the bike. They are actually a really good tire. Since it is geared more towards mountain bike usage, I kind of get it, but just something to take note of, especially if you plan on doing some more in-city riding on concrete, pavement, that type of thing. I'm not a huge fan of the white wall style either on an off-road bike. That's just a matter of opinion, not a problem, but that's just me. In the center of your tire, we got dual piston hydraulic Shimano M200 brake system. It's got 160 millimeter rotors. When I ride the bike, the brakes are good, it stops fine, I don't have any concerns, but I usually do like to see bigger rotors on electric bikes because of the weight and speed. So I like to see at least 180 millimeters. But with this being geared again towards mountain biking and off-roading, the smaller rotors are probably to help a bit with weight. On top here, we have a generic air lockout suspension fork. It's actually more of a run-of-the-mill fork, but it does a pretty good job at absorbing the bumps and potholes and whatever else your ride's going to throw at you. It does have a lockout switch mounted to the handlebars, which is also a nice touch. But it too is just a generic one. You can buy it on Amazon for 20 bucks. So it is what it is. If we're going to move into the cockpit area, take a look at the display. Right in the center, you get a nice big color display from Bafang. It's actually quite nice, especially for a mountain bike, and it's a lot better than what I find on a lot of e-bikes actually. It's got all the info you need on it with the speedometer, the pedal assist level indication. You can change through the trip and odometer and all those settings on the bottom. You've also got your health, your battery health displayed as a bar and a percentage at the top. And next to that is something I wish I saw on more bikes. It's simple and small, kind of nitpicky, but they got a clock on the left-hand corner, and I don't know, I like that. You got 5 levels of pedal assist adjusted by the remote on the left here. And if you go into the settings using the menu button on the switch, there's a lot of stuff you can change in there as well, like the sensitivity. You can put service reminders on for your tune-ups. You can put a lock code on for security. There's a bunch of other stuff in there too. Another cool little tidbit about going back to the display is it actually comes with 3 different themes, they call it. So you can change the colors, the layout, all that type of stuff to something more that you like more personally. Again, small little tidbit, but I like it. Should also mention that this bike is Bluetooth compatible, so you can connect it to your phone to get more detailed riding info if you're into that type of thing, but that's kind of really all it does. The last thing up in the cockpit area is your throttle mounted on the left-hand side here. Just give it a push down and off you go. Moving to the frame. Down at the bottom here, you have your in-tube unbranded 18 amp hour battery with Samsung cells. Again, it's unbranded, so there's not a whole lot of info on it. They say it'll do 110 kilometers. But with a mountain bike, that's kind of relative to how you ride, where you're riding, what you're using it for, that type of thing. They also have the keyed lock-in for the battery here and the charging port built right down on the frame in there. Down here by your crank, you've got your Bafang M600 mid-drive motor. Puts out about 500 watts. This is where the bike gets a bit of a bump for me because I really do like mid-drive motors. They just run smoothly, keep the weight of the bike more in line with the rider, which is actually a big deal if you're using a mountain bike as intended. It also means if you take the back tire off, you don't have a whole bunch of wires and the motor, and it makes it just more easy to replace if there's damage. There's no info on the torque of this thing on their website, but I know that the M600 puts out 120 Newton meters of torque. So trust me, it's got some kick. It's lots of fun. As we move to the rear, you can see another 160 millimeter hydraulic brake system. And on the drive side, it's rocking a 12-speed Shimano Dior gear system. So you got a lot of gears to work through on those tougher rides, especially when you include those 5 levels of power assistance. While this bike does come with the built-in headlight, there is no light to the rear, which isn't overly surprising for a mountain bike, just because normally you need to see where you're going, but not concerned so much about what's behind you. The saddle is absolutely generic, no branding or marking on it. It's already a little worn. It's nothing special, and it's not that comfortable, so yeah, I would swap that out. All right, put some numbers on this thing. Start with a visual appeal. There's nothing crazy unique about this bike compared to other mountain bikes. And if you take off my red additions and put back on the black stock parts, there's really nothing that makes it stick out. I think it's a good looking bike, but it's pretty average at best. So I'm gonna give it a 3.5 out of 5 for looks. Not bad, nothing special. Moving to components. It's kind of a mixed bag with this one. They have some nice parts like the Bafang mid-drive, the large Bafang display. Even though the suspension fork and lockout are generic, they do a pretty decent job. The Shimano gear system and hydraulic brakes are good quality components, although again, I would upgrade that 160 millimeter rotor to at least 180. The Kenda tires are quality rubber, but again, they're not e-bike rated. I did forget to mention earlier too, but they have used a KMC E12 chain, which was developed by KMC specifically for mid-drive e-bikes. So that's actually a really, really nice component addition as well. On the flip side, you do have some of the generic stuff like the saddle, the lockout gearing, the suspension fork is again just generic. The smaller rotors could be switched out. So just some stuff that could be cost cutting from Element. So for components, all things considered, I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5, just in line with other bikes in the market in the price range. We're keeping it lower because at the full price of $3,500, I just think the parts I mentioned should be upgraded to, again, compared to other bikes in the market. For the 2,000 bucks I got it for, this thing is a steal of a deal, but at full price, it's a bit much. We have to remember mid-drive motors are more expensive as a rule. And I looked it up, the motor itself runs 1,200 bucks on Bafang's website. So maybe I do need to cut them a bit of slack, but 3.5 to 4 is what I would give for the components. Let's move on to ride quality. I'm going to give Element some brownie points here for this one because it is fun to ride. That mid-drive motor just wants to go. And when you hit that limited speed of 32 kilometers an hour, you can feel it just wants to keep going like a dog chasing a rabbit or something. Now I know the legal speed limit in Canada is 32 kilometers an hour for an e-bike, but considering this is intended for off-road mountain biking and not necessarily to be a street legal ride, it'd be nice if you could change that top speed and unlock it, but it is locked in the software by the manufacturer, so there's nothing we can do about that. I said it before, but that generic fork does a pretty good job. The brakes do work well, and it feels pretty well put together and smooth when you ride it. Seat's not what I'd call comfortable, but other than that, it is a fun bike. So for rideability, I'm going to give the Element a 4 out of 5, considering it is an off-brand mountain bike, not a Giant or a Kona or a Trek or anything like that. Overall, it is a decent bike, but a not so decent price. It's a mix of good and random, and judging by their not so functional website, I'm not sure what Element has to offer as far as brand reputation. For the full $3,500, I think you could find a better alternative, but if you can get it on a good sale, it's a fun bike to ride. That mid-drive motor is a nice bonus, and I don't know that you would necessarily regret it. Taking everything we just discussed into consideration though, I'm going to end things with an overall rating of 3.5 out of 5. Again, not bad, not great, solidly average. I don't think you'll regret your purchase, but you may be able to find something better. That's all I've got for you today, folks. So as always, if you're an e-bike nerd like me, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And remember, save the T-Rex and ride electric with STT. Thanks for watching.